Okay, hi Linda. I'm going to record the video for you so you know exactly how to do your shirts. It doesn't really make any difference which one of your embroidery machines that you do it on. So this signifies the 4x4. This is the grid for the 4x4 hoop for it's for my baby lock machine. But like I said, it doesn't matter which machine you use. I printed out this template for you that is the exact size that it's going to stitch out. So if you put that underneath, you'll see that this is your stitching area right here, and this is the center of the design. So I don't know if you use your grids or not when you hoop your projects, but it's up to you. You can or you don't have to. I'm going to give you one of these little pieces of paper, and this is the exact size, like I said. So the first thing I did was I measured 1 inch up from the top of the pocket. So 1 inch up, and then I put a pin. And I lined that pin up with the buttonhole or the button, either one. So that means that's the center of this pocket. So if you take this piece of paper and this is your 1 inch mark, and that's your center. So I'm going to just put just a tiny little dot there, or you can leave the pin there. It doesn't make any difference. And then I'm going to poke just a little hole in this paper, and I'm going to lay that piece of paper right on top of that center mark. So that means this is how far up, let me fold this back. This is how far up above the pocket that your name is going to be. You don't want the name exactly down here because that's a little harder to do. And if you didn't have it hooped exactly right, it would look crooked. So lining those up, I would guess that's about a 1/2 inch. Yep. So about a 1/2 inch up. But like I said, if you marked your 1 inch and then lined these two up so that the center of the word Jim and that little dot underneath line up. So that's exactly where you want your embroidery to start when you put it in the embroidery machine. Now you can see I took my 4x4 hoop. Again, it doesn't matter either one of your embroidery machines you want to use, but I would use, this may not be your smallest hoop, but I would use the hoop that is equivalent to like a 4x4. So then what you want to do is you want to take your grid and you want to mark the center of the design. That's where on the grid mark, that's where the center of the hoop is, and that's where we're going to put the center of the design that we also marked on the shirt. I have hooped a piece of medium cutaway. And if you're going to use like a soft and sheer cutaway, then I would do 2 pieces. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to hoop the shirt with the stabilizer because it's not a very big design. Then I'm going to take some adhesive spray and I'm going to spray that area. Then I will lay my shirt out, and I'll take a small pin, and I'm going to put my pin through that center hole or center mark that I put on the shirt, and then I'm going to line that up, the other part of the pin on the center that I marked that was the center of the stabilizer that I put in, and then just kind of press that down. So you'll see this little mark right here lines up with the center mark that I put on the piece of stabilizer. Now if you put your grid back on top of this, you can kind of tell, you can see the line, the top of the pocket line here, and that is your guideline to see if you have it in the hoop straight. Mine is pretty straight. This side right here needs to come down just a little bit. That's the important part, is you want to make sure you've got it in this hoop straight. And that looks pretty good to me. Again, if you can see down here, the top of that pocket pretty much is even all the way across. So then I would just put it in my embroidery machine and go ahead and hoop it. And just to be safe too, I probably would put a couple pins that are, you're sure, completely out of the way of where the hoop is going to move or where it's going to stitch. And that will for sure hold it in place while you're embroidering it. If you feel more comfortable hooping the two of them together, then go ahead and do it. But that's pretty hard because the edges of this pocket get in the way. So again, I'm going to pin it on all four sides, and that is way out of the way from where my word Jim is going to embroider. You can see my pins are completely out of the sewing area. You can see now I've got the hoop in my machine, and if you've used your grid and you made a mark in the center of the pocket, 1 inch up like I told you to, and you put the hoop in the machine, it should be centered perfectly. You shouldn't have to adjust your needle one way or the other. You can see when I pull my needle down, it's right above that hole, and I did not adjust it one way or the other. Now you don't have to be spot on that little mark that you made, as long as it's within, I don't know, a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch. Like I said, it'll be good if it's fairly close. Now, 1/4 of an inch would be way too far away. So just make sure it's pretty close. And then just go ahead and start the machine. If I can see here around the camera. And the whole thing only takes 1 minute to stitch. That's it. It's all done. And now I'm going to show you how to hoop the next one without taking the whole piece of stabilizer out of the hoop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pair of sharp scissors, and I'm just going to cut around that, the name that I just stitched. Make sure you don't cut don't cut into the shirt. So you just want to cut a little hole in that stabilizer, and you can trim this a little bit better if you want, but that's close enough. And there it is, all done. And I see it has a little couple lines here that stitched, or a line that stitched that shouldn't, so I'll fix that before I do the next one so that you don't have to pick that out. Anyway, here's the hole that it created, and all you have to do is just take another small piece of stabilizer, spray it with adhesive spray, and lay it on top, and then just hoop your next shirt exactly the same way that you did this one. So you're going to take your tape measure, and you're going to measure up 1 inch from the top of the pocket, and you're going to make a little mark. There's 1 inch up, and it lines up with the center of the buttonhole. Then I'm going to take my little name paper, line it up on top of that, and you can see that's where it's about the perfect 1/2 inch from the top to the bottom. So now I'll take my hoop again, where I've marked the center of it, so that I can get the 2 pieces lined up. Take a pin. Oops, I'm going to spray this a little bit first so my shirt will stick to it. Going to take a pin, put in the center of that mark. Then I'm going to put it in the center of the mark in the hoop. Keep your hoop straight, obviously. Going to push it down so that those 2 center points through that center hole or center mark that I put on the shirt. And then I'm going to line that up, the other part of the pin on the center that I marked, that was the center of the stabilizer that I put in. And then just kind of press that down. So you'll see this little mark right here lines up with the center mark that I put on the piece of stabilizer. Now it's to come down just a little bit. That's the important part, is you want to make sure you've got it in this hoop straight. Your machine, and go ahead and hoop it. And just to be safe too, I probably would put a couple pins that are, you're sure, completely out of the way of where the hoop is going to move or where it's going to stitch. And that will for sure hold it in place while you're embroidering it. If you feel more comfortable hooping the 2 of them together, then go ahead and do it. But that's pretty hard because the edges of this pocket get in the way. So again, I'm going to pin it on all 4 sides, and that is way out of the way from where my word Jim is going to embroider. You can see my pins are completely out of the sewing area.